lovers. I am so blessed and honored to be in a position to share, tools and tips and tricks that have the potential to heal and to bring you to a place of full sexual embodiment. And one of the tools that I absolutely love and have been using for the better part of a decade are crystal yoni products, including pleasure wands and yoni eggs. And I was so excited to recently come across a brand called Wands, Wands. I met the founder here in Austin and I absolutely loved who she was. I love getting to know the people behind the products that I like to use. And I just loved her mission to really support women and men to explore, celebrate, and honor their sexuality. I felt this transmission of slow, sensual seduction in all of who she was and all that she brought to the world. So I went ahead and gave it a try. I purchased a blue quartz Emerita wand, and the Emerita wand is great because it has this like cool bulby end on it, which is designed for G-spot and cervical stimulation, but can also be used for prostate stimulation. So it's great for men and women and can even be used between partners. So I'm so honored to have built this relationship with her and to be able to offer you guys an amazing discount code. So if you use the code Leola, Leola, that will give you 15% off all products. And the website is wands.com, Wands.com. And we'll go ahead and link that in the show notes as well for you. So thank you so much for listening. And also you're welcome for the inevitable pleasure and healing and ecstasy that is coming your way with these products. Let's dive into the episode. Welcome to Talk Tantra to Me. It is such an honor to be holding space for this divine knowledge to make its way into your ears and lifestyle. Today, I talk Tantra with Susan Bratton, who is an intimacy expert. She is the spokeswoman for Gains Wave and Fima Wave and is co-founder and CEO of two corporations, Personal Life Media, Inc., a publisher of Heart Connected Lovemaking Techniques and Bedroom Communication Skills, and the 20 LLC, a manufacturer of organic and botanical supplements that enhance vitality. That sounds so yummy. I'm excited to get into it in this episode. And I'm also so grateful for Susan, her content, and so appreciative that she's here on the podcast to offer her perspective of living an expansive life. So thank you for being here, Susan. Why don't you start by telling us a bit about your journey with becoming an intimacy expert? How did you discover this passion and purpose?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Leola. When my publicist said, would you like to be on a Tantra show? I was like, oh God, yes, of course I do. Because what I actually teach is Tantra. I just don't use the T word. My brand, if you will, and I'm a publisher of passionate lovemaking techniques and an author of 44 books about pleasuring techniques and communication skills and sexual health and wellness, is a very specific set of words that I think is really going to resonate with you. It's heart-connected, conscious, passionate lovemaking. And what that means for me and how I got here is heart connected is pretty simple. It's the kind of sex where you fall more deeply in love together as you're having it. And conscious is that you've let go of shame and you have the ability to be present and stay with is exquisitely and infinitely expanding pleasure and ecstasy. And passionate is that you have an outrageous desire and that you feel outrageously desirable. And lovemaking is that I like to say that I transform having sex into making love. And I don't like the words foreplay and sex because I feel like that comes from the religious patriarchy, where sex was for procreation only. So that's all that mattered. And so we women got so shortchanged in our subjugation to the patriarchy because everything was about getting inside us. And we've been penetrated too quickly and too often our whole lives, and we've missed our God-given pleasure. So I like to just like come right out and say that I am definitely an advocate for what I call the matriarchal view of sex. And I think that when it's a woman-led experience, it becomes so much more fun for everyone. And it kind of compensates for all the bullshit that has happened in our society and our culture to keep women in control. Because if they let us have our full scope of sexual self-expression, we'd be ruling the fucking world. And we should be, because men have really, really messed it up. And it is our time to come into our own and to work from our yoni to express what this world could be and what Gaia Earth could be. So I got here at 62 having the best sex of my life, because at 42, 20 years ago, I was a very successful Silicon Valley executive. My company invented the cable modem that we are using probably right now, if we're not using fiber. And I was a hard charging Silicon Valley executive married to a really amazing inventor, Silicon Valley husband with a beautiful 6-year-old daughter. And I didn't want to have sex with him because I'd had sex with him for 11 years straight and I'd never had an orgasm from intercourse. And frankly, I just got disenchanted with sex. And so my husband and I on our 11th anniversary just sat down and had a long talk about dissatisfaction and decided to start A, getting honest with each other, B, trying to fix our sex life instead of getting divorced like we saw all our friends doing. You know, I think unless you've married someone who has a lot of issues, or you've married a sociopath, because they're out there, most people, if the sex is great and money's the problem, will still stay together. So I think that the majority of reason that people break up is because the sex is not satisfying. And when I started having satisfying sex, and it was actually so easy once I learned how, and once we learned how, I said, let's bring this all to the world, because we were internet people 20 years ago. We knew we could bring all this stuff that you could only get from going to in-person workshops. And we knew lots of people would do that, but not enough people would do that to heal the wound of patriarchy and religiosity and what it had done to our sexual psyche. And so we started our company called Personal Life Media, launched the Better Lover brand, and started publishing the work of our best mentors. And then over the years, I just became an expert in my own right and understanding the difference between the male and female body, honoring that, working with it, understanding our anatomy and how it actually works. I mean, literally just a couple of months ago, thanks to our trans folks, we have finally an understanding of how the nerves run through our clitoral structures. I mean, we just are learning the most basic things about the female anatomy. And so we're really playing catch up. And so I've devoted the last 20 years of my life to teaching techniques through ebooks, online programs. All of my stuff is digitally delivered. I like to create once and distribute to as many as possible. So that's how I got here today on your show, Talkin' Tantra.
Well, thank you. Thank you again for being here. And thanks for sharing that background with such depth and vulnerability as well. And I deeply resonate with so much of it. I'm sure there's so many listeners, especially women, that feel this sense of, shame and guilt that has been projected onto us around, and fear around our sexuality. And I totally agree that it's like, this is the most powerful force in our bodies. And when we are embodied in it, we become unstoppable. So what better way to control the masses than by making them afraid of the energy that empowers them? So I love that. And I also want to honor you for, and before we started this call, you had kind of spoken into this wisdom that you have. And I feel like you have this really incredible beauty in owning your age and your experience. And when I was reading a little bit more about you before you came on the podcast, I think that you had a phrase like called ageless pleasure or something like that. Can you speak into that a little
sexuality.
bit?
Yeah. Ageless sexuality. Yeah. What I realized, I started out teaching people how to make love. how to kiss, how to do yoni massage, how to do lingam massage. You're like the one show I don't have to define what a yoni and lingam are. I'm into that sister. And I taught the expanded orgasm practice, which has been called extended massive orgasm, deliberate orgasm, the butterfly method, orgasmic meditation. It's been called a lot of things. And my particular flavor that I teach is from one of my mentors, Dr. Patty Taylor, who teaches expanded orgasm. I teach G-spot awakening, female ejaculation. I teach seduction with integrity. I teach how to make love to a woman, how to make love to a man, all of these kinds of things. And I realized that teaching techniques is fantastic, but you also have to teach communication skills. And then I realized, okay, that's really important. Those are two pieces, but it's a three-legged stool: sexuality and sexual expansion, which is what I'm all about, is living up to your orgasmic pleasure potential in complete comfort and confidence. And so the third leg of the stool is actually what I call sexual biohacking. Biohacking came out of the longevity world. And biohacking is how you can live a longer life, have a longer health span, not just a lifespan. And what I do is I talk about sex span, how you can have sex that keeps getting better your whole life till the day you die. I mean, I want to die in orgasm. That's the way I'm going out. And at 62, I'm having the best sex of my life, because your sex life is part of your personal growth and it's part of your maturation. And you keep getting better your whole life long if you have the intention to do so. And you are someone who practices your sexuality. So the sex span, the ageless sexuality is these stacks. When you're a biohacker, you think about things in a stack. Like, for example, I actually have all of the supplements that I currently am taking right here, because when we're done, I'm shooting a little video of myself of the things I'm currently taking and why. Not because I recommend that anyone else do it, just because it's interesting to see how I think about the way I care for my body and my genitals. And when you get older and you start to get wrinkly, you're aging inside and outside, and your genitals age. And you have to keep reversing the atrophy and shrinkage of aging, the thinning of the tissue, etc. Women get loss of lubrication. They get difficulty achieving orgasm. They get a flaccid vulva. They get incontinence, and they get a thinning of the tissue of the genital system. Men get loss of firmness, inability to achieve or maintain an erection, loss of sensitivity and difficulty achieving climax, and they get nighttime urinary issues that lead to prostate problems. And so we have this urogenital aging that can be reversed using a series of synergistic treatments and concepts that help reverse the aging of the genitals. It's like using a good face cream on your face, or working out, or the things that we do to stay young. And the stack for men is a penis pump. I am an expert in penis pumping because it is the single cheapest, best thing any man 40 and up can do to keep atrophy at bay and keep a super firm, gorgeous, rock hard, veiny, pulsing with electric energy penis, which is the kind I like.
Same.
And so a penis pump, nitric oxide supplementation, Gainswave, which is an acoustic wave treatment that is administered to the penis and to the internal shaft of the penis through the outside. Waves go into the tissue and stimulate new tissue growth, new capillary action, and keep the plaque off the veins in there, so that he can maintain his veiny, hard, writhing with delicious energy firmness. So Gainswave, the nitric oxide supplement, and the pump are three great things. And then if you want to like put a cherry on the top, you could do PRP, exosomes, or stem cells. Those also are very good. For the feminine, I like something called the vagina device. It's at vaginadevice.com. That internally uses red light and warmth and kind of a small vibration for Kegel toning that helps the inside of the vaginal area. For the outside, I like FemiWave. It plumps the tissue. It reconstitutes the erectile system, your clitoral, urethral, and perineal erectile tissue system, so you can have really good, strong, intense, long, amazing orgasms. It keeps it all really good, and it keeps the incontinence at bay. And then, of course, nitric oxide for getting the blood flowing into our pelvic bowl, because over time, our ability to produce nitric oxide begins to decline, like everything begins to decline. So for me at 62, I have a lush, gorgeous, voluptuous, dripping, wet, juicy, massively orgasmic yoni. And anybody can, doing these things. So that's the third leg of the stool that I often talk about.
Beautiful. So many good things there. I get a lot of people that come to me that are in that stage of life, and they're very cautious. It's Tantra for me. Just so you know, I'm 65 or whatever age they are.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a hesitancy, and I'm always excited about it. I'm always really excited to welcome them in. We have, people of all ages at our retreats, at our play parties. I just had a couple in their 60s at our play party a couple of days ago, and they were like the most embodied, hot, like people there, they were all for it. And I love it. And we had a woman at our recent retreat that shared how, she thought that sex ended and pleasure ended, with children and years of marriage.
That's patriarchal religion, right?
Yep.
If sex is for procreation only, don't bother having sex after you can't have kids anymore. It's such bullshit.
Yeah. But then you learn these tools, and you learn that sex can be so much more than even just for like a moment. It's transformational. It's healing. And that was her experience at the retreat. We actually had her on the podcast to share that, because it is so powerful. And I see individuals in this space of Tantra. And my experience by and far is that people that are in Tantra look at least 5 years younger than they actually are, if not more. So I find it all so interesting. And I appreciate that you shared, both for men and women, what some of these biohacking things could look like. And I'm curious to know a little bit more about how men and women approach pleasure as well.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a question too. What are you guys doing at your play parties? What kind of play parties are you having?
So our play party group is called the Naked Soul Society. So the intention isn't just sex and sexual connection. It's also emotional connection. And it's a group of people that are courageously committed to the nakedness of vulnerability and authenticity. And there's, conscious conversations around consent and safer sex. And we do workshops and bring in experts, but then we open up into the play space. But I've been to a lot of play parties that are really just about sex, and there's no spiritual integration or emotional integration. And I've also been to play parties that are like Tantra, but it's like anyone can just buy a ticket on Eventbrite, and it's quite a mix of people. So I kind of created something that lands in the middle of that.
That sounds great. Yeah, I've been to probably, I don't know, over 20 different types of play parties. So I'm always interested to see what the structures are. And I like the play parties that are conscious community, with opening ceremonies and closing circles, and, a lot of care and a lot of honesty and vulnerability. I really do love that and think it is the best. So thank you so much for hosting that kind of party. We need more of those. And the more people come to those and understand how great it can be to make love and community, the more that we heal our soul from the last, like 10,000 years, because we've been around for over 1 million, and we've been making love the entire time.
Yeah, people don't realize that going to a play party is a healing experience.
It is.
And that's what it is for me. And every time, even doing this for years, layers surface and come through and heal, and I grow, and I'm just so enjoying creating evidence for the world. I'm honored. So
Yeah, me too. Thank you. It's very nice to know you. As far as pleasure, I have a couple of different things that I think about it. One is that it's a learned skill. Another is that there are 20 kinds of orgasms the human body can have, both chromosomes XX and XY. I'm very gender fluid, supportive, and love a dynamic range of gender expression. But we are typically born in an XX or XY body with either testosterone dominance or estrogen dominance. And it makes our sexual response profile look a little bit different. The XY chromosome, testosterone dominant Homo sapien, he's, let's just call him a he, it doesn't matter. He gets an erection 3 or 4 times a night if he's healthy. He wakes up with morning wood. He masturbates daily to keep his sperm fresh. It's a biological imperative for him. So he's thinking a lot about sex. He's got very fast acting hemodynamics. So his penis gets erect really quickly and he's ready to go. Where the female body, it doesn't do any of those things. It has a 28-day cycle. It has 3 very nooks and cranny types of erectile structures that if you took them out of the vulva and put them on one side of a scale and took all the erectile tissue of the penis on the other side of the scale, they balance each other out. But his is a straight shot and hers is very diffused. So it takes her 20 minutes when she feels safe because she's the prey and he's the predator. She has to really feel like she's in a safe place for her arousal to begin. She's got a lot on her mind, so she needs to get out of her head and into her body. And many women, they pressure themselves to try to be like a man in bed, because porn depicts so much of that already. And it's such a misnomer that women never really get the engorgement that's required to achieve the levels of pleasure that they're due. And we need a lot of simultaneous stimulation. We need our lips, our tongue, our mouth, our throat, our neck, our chest, our breasts, our nipples, our belly, our ass, our thighs, our groin, our mons, our outer labia, our inner labia, our clitoral tip, our clitoral shaft, our crura, the clitoral legs, our vestibular bulbs, the clitoral, or those are the clitoral legs, the crura, the clitoral arms, the urethral sponge, which they call a G-spot. It's not as a big tube. We need the perineal sponge activated. We need the vagina, all of that tissue to be activated all the way deep inside. It's not an inside out penis. It's a cave that needs complete activation. Our anus, everything needs to be activated. And yet I recently read a research report of 444 women who were touched all over their breasts and their vaginal area, their vulval area. And 50% of women said that touching the entrance to their vagina felt good. Only 40% said touching their clitoris felt good. And all of the other locations, often women said, made them feel embarrassed or shame or numb, or they felt nothing. And it's literally only because they've never been activated or touched with a loving grace. And all women have the ability to be massively multi-orgasmic, as do our male-bodied partners. And we just rush and don't get the loving touch and the activation that sends the signals to our brain, which is the sex organ that creates the feeling of pleasure. We don't get the feeling of pleasure when we're doing this. We get it from the mind-body connection. And when that stuff's just, there's a dead signal, or it's just not happening, or there's been shame or trauma, so much trauma that we've all had, it's very, very difficult. So activating pleasure takes intention and loving ministration and kindness and willingness and openness and safety and security. But once we start getting that, we start having so much orgasmic pleasure. And then we're able to take not just adding up all these places that feel good. And, there's 3 kinds of orgasms. There's locations you can touch, like some of the things I've been naming. And there's techniques you can use, like everything from expanded orgasm to erotic hypnosis to female ejaculation. They use specific techniques to basically, what's the word I want? Like objects of desire. And one of the things that I've been teaching is orgasmic cross training. If you go to orgasmiccrosstraining.com, I've listed the 8 types of tools or objects of desire that I recommend for activating the entire vulval system, the entire yoni, all of our pleasure areas. When we stop getting just, like rough treatment of the tip of our clitoris and penetrated too soon, and we move to opening and activating all that tissue, we can move into a lot of different kinds of orgasms and massively multi-processing parallel orgasmic pleasure. I like to think about quantum orgasms, where it's radiating out in so much dimensionality and keeps getting bigger and better and richer until you touch source through the orgasmic bliss that you have. When you and your partner or you solo can touch source, can feel Gaia, can feel your connection to all living things through that trance state of pleasure, it really makes you understand that we are all so connected.
Yeah, beautiful. I just want to honor the way that you addressed the fluid dynamic nature of both gender, but also honoring the biology and the hormone levels of, the biological pieces. So
thank you.
Yeah. And I also really loved, and this is just double clicking on a couple of short little moments in that beautiful.
I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome. That there was a piece where you talked about the predator and the prey, and in the more masculine energies, the predator, and the feminine as the prey. And I also really appreciated that, because I think a lot of people can resonate with it, but it also feels a little taboo too. And I think that there's a lot of power in acknowledging that dynamic and reclaiming it in a way. It's almost like a piece of shadow work in there. And it's not to say that I think that there's a feminine predator archetype as well in the bedroom, but it's more like a flower, and then the bees and the other insects come, and it's more of like a magnetism rather than a pursuit with the masculine predator. But I'm just curious if you want to speak into any more of that. Otherwise we can.
Yeah, I'd like to, actually. I was just reading another sexologist who was doing research on sexual predation, on sexual predators, and looked at country by country data, and said after a while, she was like, oh, well, fuck it. I don't even need to look at this anymore, because like literally every single country that I've looked at, the data is 99% of it is men and 1% of it is women. And I was like, yeah. And then I read this other thing about, I think it was in Singapore, there was a beauty contest, and the women were complaining that the judges had to do some like body cavity search on them for some reason. And now there's this big scandal, and someone made a comment, well, we should just shut those beauty pageants down. And I was like, right. Yeah, we should totally shut down what the women want to do and how we express ourselves because one frigging sexual predator got in there. No, we should put the sexual predators in jail, especially the ones that grab them by the pussy. Let's put them in jail right now and get them in there behind the bars and stop putting up with this bullshit that's keeping us from expressing our beauty. Hands off our fucking bodies. We like to be beautiful. That is not an invitation for you to predate us. You must ask always before you touch. And so those are some things I wanted to say.
They say you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And this is something that I really, really resonate with. And as I've invested in living a tantric lifestyle, my relationships have evolved and become so much more juicy and liberating. And I believe that this is something that everyone deserves. However, finding these people can be a little bit challenging at first. And so it is my mission to create more spaces for people to find individuals that are resonant with the tantric lifestyle, that are really resonant with you, the listener, the person who is investing their time into living a life that is expansive and liberating. So with that, I'm committed to creating more and more safe spaces for people to discover their desires and practice their boundaries, to connect in community, to celebrate and to grow together so that we can all step into a more authentic version of ourselves and experience truly unconditional love. So we have Tantra retreats for men, women, couples, singles. We also have a female-only retreats, just for the ladies stepping into their divine feminine. We have play parties. We have Tantra workshops, Tantra yoga, women's circles. We've got all kinds of really powerful in-person events. You can find all the details at www.talktantratome.com/events. You can also just go to talktantratome.com and click the events tab to find out about all the latest and the greatest. And if you're wanting me all to yourself, I can't blame you. I also host private retreats for both individuals and couples. Those are one-on-one. You get me all to yourself. And I'm available for private Tantra workshops and performances. And this is great for events like your birthday, or maybe a bachelorette party or a bachelor weekend. We can talk and create something that will be extra special just for you. So I cannot wait to connect with you in real life. But for now, thanks so much for your patience with this brief interruption, and let's get back to the episode. I love the passion in what you speak about. I deeply value that as well, being really passionate. It's so much about, it's not even what you're saying or doing. It's like the energy and the beingness is really beautiful. And it's like, this woman is fucking alive.
Yes, I am.
And
I'm orgasm powered, mama. I am a woman who lives in a turned on state all the time. And when you turn that on, your sexual vitality is your life force. It is your power. It is your lust for life. Yes, my passion is passion. Literally, I've devoted my career to passionate lovemaking, to give people the steps. Our sex education is like fear-based, and we learn to be afraid of ejaculatory semen, and everything is just supposed to shut us down and control us. And once we help people learn that making love is so easy, and it's so easy to pleasure, and it's so easy to activate, and then we gain confidence, and we gain confidence in ourselves, and then we gain confidence in ourselves for the rest of our life, for all the other things outside the bedroom. So much confidence comes from using the seat of your power, your sushumna, your yoni, your sacral chakra. That is really the thing that I love about you so much, is that you are young and vital and active in the world, and helping people come together to experience the benefits of all of the goodness of our sexuality. So I really thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, you're a testament for your work, just in your way of being. That turned on by life essence is so very alive in this conversation. And I love it. And I also love that you started to bring up some of these pieces on asking for consent and creating safety. And I'm curious to veer into that direction a little bit. How do you ask for what you want? You're starting to learn about your body and what you like. How do you begin to communicate with people, with your partners, in a way that's going to be expansive and liberating, but also honoring the other person and not maybe damaging their ego in the process?
Yeah. This is very, very easy answer. The first thing I want to do is I wrote a book called Sexual Soulmates, The 6 Essentials to Connected Sex, because what I've been doing is I don't see people by the hour. I am a publisher of passionate lovemaking techniques and bedroom communication skills. I publish my own work, 44 books, and the work of others who I revere. And Sexual Soulmates came about after me giving free advice to anyone on my email newsletter who just hit reply and said, "Hey, Suze, I have a question." I gave them ideas. They tried them and let me know how they were doing. Like, my number one thing is report back. I want to know the advice that I gave you for free, how it worked or didn't, or what the roadblocks were, what have you. And my sex tips newsletter is at betterlover.com. By the way, if people are like, how do I ask her a question? You can get it at betterlover.com. You can sign up there, and then you're on my sex tips newsletter. And then if you hit reply, I get it personally. And that's what made me good at what I do, is just giving everything away forever and supporting people. And what I realized is that there are 6 essentials for connected sex. And the first, and if you want the book, you can buy it on Amazon, but you can also get it for free at sexualsoulmatesbook.com. It's a downloadable PDF. And one of the 6 essentials, which I think is like the number 1 essential, honestly, is the foundation of great communication. And so I wrote a technique called the Sexual Soulmate Pact. And part of this is derived from my training in the expanded orgasm, deliberate orgasm, clitoral stroking technique space, where it originated with Morehouse in California, and I'm a disciple of that teaching. And really, it's about understanding that every day our bodies are different, especially the female body. We live on a 28-day cycle. We run with the moon, even after menopause. And what we wanted yesterday and today are totally different things. And even what we want last minute and the next minute are totally different things. And let's just take a heterosexual couple, a male and a female. When that couple defers to her desires in the moment, when she gets the confidence to just say what sounds good to her yoni, when she starts to tune into her yoni, because your yoni is always talking to you. You may not be listening yet. You may not have learned how to tune into what we call in the tantric world K-Love, K-L-U-V, the radio station of the yoni. I learned that at the Human Awareness Institute. I've been trained there as well. And K-Love is listening to her, because she is telling you all the time what she wants and doesn't want, what she likes and doesn't like. And when you as a couple allow Yoni to do all the talking and express herself and let her desire out and let her just be so slutty and turned on and have this hunger for great sex, then the masculine knows that he's pleasing her. And he's biologically driven to do that. He wants to know she's happy. He wants to do a good job. He wants to be respected for his work and be invited back into the palace. And so when she owns that, and it's her job to tune in and to speak for her yoni, she lives in this animal body that it has to deal with the vagaries of how much sleep she got, how much stress she's under, if she ate crap or not, if she got a workout in, if she's, happy, and all of her cycles and all of those things. When she gives Yoni her head, she lets Yoni tell her what she needs, and she just speaks it. Okay, here's what Yoni wants. Then all of a sudden, sex becomes satisfying. It becomes exciting, because you never know what Yoni's going to be up to. I mean, she's a crazy girl when you let her off her leash, and that's so fun. And when you're both just like, okay, what does she want today? Let's give her what she wants. Everybody can relax, and the lovemaking gets so much better. And so teaching your guy, especially if he's a stubborn donkey, because there's some guys that are like really, really trainable and super easy to train. And you tell them one time and they're like, oh, I fucking get that. That's great. Yeah, tell me everything, baby. I love it. And then there's other guys who are like, I know what I'm doing. I'm a big pig-headed ding dong, and you're like, I know, but I still like to fuck you. So I guess I'm just going to have to bang this into your meathead over and over again. And I'm willing to do it because I love that dick. Like, that's okay too. Like, I've had a few of those myself, and they were almost worth it. The other ones are so much better, but God knows. So everybody's got their benefits. Everybody's got their things. But when you get a guy to understand that there's no such thing as failure, only feedback that lets him win, then he's like, tell me more. And then you have to teach him how to thank you or acknowledge every piece of feedback you get because you're insecure about doing it. And you need him to tell you over and over, like 1,000 times. You need him to tell you how beautiful you are, how much he loves you, how much he loves you, telling him anything and everything. And a guy who starts out like at least willing to do it, but a little bit like, like, I'm trying not to take this as me doing something wrong. He'll move through that if you just stay on to him. Every time I say something to you, say thank you. If you say thank you, I know you're willing to take it in. If you don't, or you're like, I know what I'm doing, you're not listening to me. You're not listening to my Yoni. It's not me. It's Yoni. I have no control over her. She's going to do what she's going to do. You want to make her happy with me and keep playing with her? Then you got to say thank you every time I give you feedback. Because every time you do that, I'm like, he's okay with it. He's not triggered. He's not feeling like he did something wrong. He's not feeling rejected, because men live in a pecking order. If you get bad feedback, you go down in the pecking order, and they hate that. So you have to get them out of that mentality. And it can be hard with some of those stubborn donkeys, but if you persist, they will get it. And that makes all the difference in the world when you start communicating. And then he'll start communicating, and then he'll start showing his pleasure. Like, unfortunately, he needs those models too. He grew up in the same shitty culture we did that has been, a disservice to all of us. It's not like it was his thing that he did. It was just shit he learned that was bad too. So we're in this together, and we got to get out of it together. And the Sexual Soulmate Pact, PACT, is the way to do it. If you just want that, I have a separate download for that. I like to make everything available. Sexual Soulmate Pact, PACT.com. You can print it out. You can give one to your boyfriend. You can keep one for yourself. You can read it, and then you can discuss it over dinner, and you can start practicing it, and you can get good at it. And then your sex life will take off.
Look at this. She's got the codes. I love it. And we'll be linking all of this stuff in the show notes for people to access Susan's work and take it home and share with your partners. But yeah, I love the idea of feedback, just as like giving them a cheat code, like even seeing it as like, I know my husband likes to play video games, and it's like, here's the cheat code to get
Give
to
him
that.
the cheat code.
Yeah. So just framing it in a way that is more
makes sense.
Accessible and even exciting for them, I think it goes a long way. And also having a partner that just has the shared value of growing together and communicating. And on that note, I know you work a lot with helping people understand their relationship values and finding that compatibility with a partner. So I'd love to talk about that as well.
Yeah, sure. Relationship values are understanding what it is that you want most out of your relationship with your partner and what they want most. The golden rule is do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. But the problem is that especially in a pair bonded male-female relationship, but really in every relationship, we're different people. We have a different upbringing. We have different needs. We have different personalities. And so what I want out of my relationship is very different than what my husband wants. My husband wants passion, growth, honesty, and fun and adventure. I want security, freedom, honesty, and variety. And so we want different things. So when he gets up every day, he makes sure the bills are paid, the car is in good shape, like we have health insurance, everything is safe. I'm safe. And then I'm free to do whatever I want. He's an introvert. I'm an extrovert. I get a lot of offers for fun things to do all the time. And he sometimes wants to go and he sometimes doesn't. And that's okay. He never says, don't go. He's like, do you need me to go, or can I just stay home and work? And sometimes I'm like, well, no, I really want you to go with it. I need you to drive me to this thing or whatever, Sometimes I'm like, no, stay home and work and I'll go without you, or I'll take one of my boyfriends or one of my girlfriends, So that is really, really helpful. And if you go to myrelationshipmagic.com, you can get that downloadable workbook that actually walks you through how you understand what your relationship values are, and then how you can rank, order, and prioritize them. And then and it's only $9.95, and how you can then explain them to your partner in a way that they understand, because you can't just say my relationship value is security, and they're like, well, what the hell is that? Especially because they're the predator, not the prey, so they don't understand why security would be so important, because they never even think about that. They just walk in the world without worry. We walk in the world in fear. That just doesn't even dawn on them. So you have to explain it like them in kindergarten, and they will really start to understand. Oh, you mean if I do these things, it makes you feel safe? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, dude, this is super easy for me. And I'm like, I know. And so it works out really well in any relationship. And if you're not in a relationship and you're dating, it's a super good thing to know about yourself, what you want before you meet people, because you'll be able to tell them what it is you want and be able to determine whether they're the kind of person that could give you what you need in a relationship or not. Because people are very surprising. There's a lot of sleepers out there, and you're like, wow, that turned out to be the one that wanted to give me what I wanted. And I'm so happy in my relationship with them. Who would have thought it was that person? So relationship values are really the foundation for the beginnings of great relationships that can grow and blossom. And I've been with my husband 32 years. 30 years married just a few months ago. We have a 26-year-old daughter who is absolutely spectacular. And between our orgasmic meditation practice, our expanded orgasm practice, radical honesty with each other, and understanding each other's relationship values, that's the stool, the three-legged stool that has helped us have an enviable marriage.
Ooh, juicy, enviable
Yep.
marriage. And 32,
Enviable.
33 years. Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
so incredible. And I love not just getting clear on your values, but also sharing what they mean with each other. That's so big. And just words in general. Like there have been so many moments where my husband and I have been in a misunderstanding, and it appears like it's an argument, but when we like take a moment to get clear, what do you mean when you say this word? Yeah. It's like, oh, actually, I totally agree with that. I just would call it something else. Right. And something
semantics.
Yeah. And giving a lot of grace to recognize we are different humans. Something that really confused me when my husband and I first started dating is that he really loves video games and he's successful in all means of life, but he really loves them. And I was like, that's just such in my brain. I was like, that's such a waste of time. But that's his self-care. That's his self-care. I don't get on.
That's what I do when I scroll on Threads and Instagram.
Exactly.
He's post on my OnlyFans.
He's not getting on me for, getting my nails done. So why do I need to make a big deal out of this? So, just getting clear. Sometimes values are the same, but the expression looks different too.
Yes. So. Right. Well, there's a values match that is like, for example, when we went through the pandemic and that whole Trump era that we're still going through, I got very sick from long haul COVID. I'd had a gluten intolerance that went undiagnosed my whole life until I was 50. And I was feeling like I was dying at 50. And my doctor was like, just take these things out of your diet and see if you feel better. The minute I took them out, I felt better. And then when I added gluten back in, I'm like, oh, that was it. So I got off of it, but it ruined my gut. So when I got COVID, I got extremely ill and I ended up with long COVID and I lost 3 years of my life and I'm still just coming back from it. And, I took the vaccines because even though I had some contraindications for them, like I got my period for 90 days from one of those vaccines because there were a lot of women complaining about that, but it was better than the alternative for me. And I believed that our government was doing the best they could do to get as many vaccinations to as many people as possible with a constantly mutating virus. And I was willing to do it. And if other people weren't, that was okay with me. But so many of the people that I was friends with ended up being like virulent anti-vaxxers. And I also noticed that there were a lot of people that I was doing business with who stayed Republicans even through that Trump presidency. And I realized that I needed to only hang out with, do business with, and be friends with people who matched my political values of progressiveness, inclusivity, separation of church and state, women's rights, abortion support, Medicare for all. These are things that are very important to me. I'm a Democrat. I'm a liberal, progressive Democrat. And I want to tax corporations and billionaires so that we can get the money for these things. That's just my orientation. I'm not afraid of big government if government is run well. And I realized in those years that there were a lot of people that I no longer was a values match with, that I never realized I wasn't a values match with until that happened. And now I just have moved away from those people. I don't work with them anymore. I don't have friends in my network that hold beliefs that are different than mine. I like my echo chamber. It's what's important to me. And I like to move our country forward, our democracy forward. And I don't want to spend any time with people I don't like. So there are those kinds of values. And then there are the things that you value in relationship, which are they are values, but they're a different kind of relationship value. They're the things that you're entering into this agreement to be in love and to take care of each other. And there are the things you need to feel and have in that paradigm that are going to be different than your partner. You might say, one of my needs is that you have a progressive values match or a conservative values match. It's okay with me if you have a conservative values match. I'm never going to turn people who don't think what I think into my belief system. I'm not going to hang out with them and help them make money. That's not what I want to do. And so they're slightly different, but equally important to get clear on what your values are and to spend time with people who reflect your external values as well as support your internal values. For example, my best friends, my girlfriends, my guy friends who are my best friends would never put me at risk. I don't like risky behavior. That's my security thing, my number one value. So my best friends know they keep their eye out for my safety and my care and their loving hearts for me, because it is what I value, not just in my love relationship, but in my relationships with the people that are closest to me. So when you begin to think about values, you can be thinking about the multifaceted nature of who you are and what you need to feel joy, pleasure, and the feelings you want to feel in the world through both your work and your personal life.
Beautiful. Thank you for just clarifying with that distinction. And
Yeah,
I'm feeling we're kind of wrapping up here. I
I
have a
know,
couple more
sure.
questions,
Sure.
mainly where people can find you and support you and things. But I'm curious if you want to add anything before we transition into that.
I don't think if there's anything else. Well, we've dropped a lot. We've talked about a lot of different things. I would say probably that attention to the difference between our arousal patterns, the male and female bodies' arousal patterns. I just want to double down on that because so many women rush themselves. They're in the pleasing mode. And when you instead drop back into listening to your heart and to your body and to your desires, that's when they can really blossom. And when you can begin to feel the full opening of yourself to your sexuality is when you get comfortable allowing what you want to be important. So I guess I kind of feel like I'm being the mom giving the good advice, you know. I think that's one of the most important things that net in this entire conversation is you want certain things, you want them the way you want them, and you deserve to have those things. And I want you to stand for yourself and ask for them and explain how people can give them to you, because when you do that, boundaries as an example and requests, don't be afraid to ask for what you want, because how could a person love you fully and completely if they don't understand what that looks like to you? So thinking that you shouldn't be asking for what you want so you will be loved is the wrong strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Expressing what you exactly want lets people feel relaxed and comfortable that they're going to give you exactly what you want, and encouraging them to do the same for you lets you do that right back for them, so that you can expand and grow your love for all of the people in your life and all of the people in the world and all of us in our connection.
Amen. I love it. Thank you. And
Sure.
just briefly, I'll put in the show notes where to find you, but if you just want to share like your Instagram or
Sure.
anything or
Yeah.
website.
My Instagram and my OnlyFans are my first and last name, Susan Bratton, SusanBratton, Susan Bratton. BetterLover.com is where you can find my newsletter and opt in there and reply. I'll reply to anything you ask me. And then we talked about sexualsoulmatesbook.com. We talked about sexualsoulmatepact.com, and we talked about orgasmiccrosstraining.com. I think those were the 3 links that I gave you for access to downloads, right?
Yes. Yes. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you for joining me today.
Sure.
Yes. And I want to express my gratitude to the listener as well. Thank you once more for opening yourself up to the idea of sacred sexuality. With so much gratitude and love, have a sexy and spiritual day. And we'll catch you next week on Talk Tantra to Me. Ta ta.